Hey Vision Chasers, it's Dr. Byrd here with another social studies lesson for you today. I hope that these videos are helping you as you pursue academic excellence in the area of social studies. I've made them very brief and straight to the point so that you could really get a firm understanding of the information before your teacher really gets into the fine details. Today we're going to answer the question, what caused the Great Depression? And there are many factors that led to this Great Depression that affected the United States and the rest of the world. And so let's get into it. The first cause was the widespread failure of banks. Now, the way a bank makes money is what they'll do is they'll accept your deposit of cash into their bank. And what they'll do with a certain percentage of that money is they'll loan it out. And when people pay back the loan, they pay extra. So for example, if a bank makes a $100 loan, the person who's going to pay back the loan, they'll pay back $120. Okay, so that's a 20% interest rate on that $100 loan, meaning that the person who borrowed the money, they have to pay 20% extra. Now that interest rate is the cost of taking out the loan, and that's how banks make money. Now unfortunately, during this time, banks were making loans with way too much of their money. They were loaning out huge portions of the cash that they had on hand. So as more and more people fell on hard times, they couldn't pay off their debts to the bank. As a result, the banks ran out of money. As more and more people realized that the banks were running out of money, many of them rushed to the banks to withdraw their money. However, when the banks ran out of money, the banks ceased to exist. And this would cause widespread panic because many people had their life savings in the bank. And once the bank ran out of money, their money was gone. And this definitely caused widespread panic. And many people ultimately decided that they had nothing left to live for and they took their own lives. The second cause of the Great Depression was overproduction of goods. Now, naturally, if you find yourself on hard times as a business person, your inclination is to keep producing more goods so that you can sell them and make a profit. Well, here's why that didn't work during this time. This was the approach that most farmers took during this time. As a result, farm prices dropped significantly. This left a surplus of farm goods on the market. And when there's a surplus of goods, what happens is the price decreases. And so follow me here. So as farmers kept increasing their production, what that did was that depressed the prices. And so the prices went down and they stayed down as a result of all the extra goods available. The third cause of the Great Depression was high tariffs. And there were tariffs around the world. Now a tariff is simply a tax. And here's the way this tax works. So let's say, for example, that a business in the United States, they want to sell hammers. They want to sell 100 hammers in Australia. And so what Australia will do is they will levy a tax on that company in the United States wishing to sell those hammers. Now the reason Australia will tax that company is because they want to do business in Australia. And what happens is if people in Australia buy those hammers from the United States, that means they're not buying hammers from people or from businesses in Australia that make hammers as well. And so the purpose of tariffs is to regulate and reduce the number of outside businesses selling within that country. And so during this time, you had a lot of countries around the world, they were raising their tariffs. Ironically, the farmers were hurt by actions of Congress and they could not sell their products to other countries. For more information on this, I did a post on the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act. And so check that out in order to get a better understanding of how this works. The fourth cause of the Great Depression was the stock market crash of 1929. Now, during the 20s, many people were making a lot of money off of the stock market. Stock prices were rising. And so many people were encouraged to do whatever it took in order to get in on the stock market. And so what many people did was they did what was called buying on margin. And when you buy on margin, what you do is you put a small percentage of your money in, and then you take out a loan from the bank to put up the rest of the money in order to buy stocks. So let's say, for example, if someone needed $4,000 to buy stocks and they only had $2,000. So what they would do is they would borrow $2,000 in order to put that with the $2,000 that they have. That makes $4,000, and they would use that to buy stock. Now, the plan was to use the borrowed money to buy stocks, and then they would use the money that they made in the stock market in order to pay off the loan. And that's how that worked typically. That's buying on margin. However, things weren't what they seemed. The stocks that many people owned were in fact worthless as a result of shady practices of businesses. Once people learned of this, there was a huge rush to sell stocks. However, the prices fell so quickly and there were more sellers than buyers. And this ultimately led to the crash of the stock market, as no one had faith in their ability to make money in the stock market anymore. The fifth and final cause of the Great Depression is underconsumption of goods. There was not enough money going around, and so people had less of it, and as a result, they couldn't buy anything. As the Depression began, one of the most notable things was the fact that people were consuming less goods and services. Now, this is going to interrupt the business cycle. Because fewer people had money, fewer people were spending money. And as a result, businesses could not expand and hire new workers. In fact, many businesses had a surplus of unsold inventory and were forced to lay off their workers. So there you have it. Those are the 5 major causes of the Great Depression. And I'll go through those again. 1 was bank failures. 2, overproduction of goods. 3, high tariffs. 4, the crash of the stock market. And finally, underconsumption of goods. Well, that's our social studies lesson for the day. Please download the worksheet that goes along with this video in order to better your understanding of what caused the Great Depression. Until we meet again, I'm Dr. Byrd, and thank you so much for watching. Keep chasing the vision. Bye.